Between 1675 and 1676, English settlers and local Native Americans fought a brutal war led by Chief Massasoit's son Metacom, or King Philip as the English called him, that forever changed New England society. Relative to the size of population, King Philip's War was the most destructive conflict in American history. 5% of New England's population was killed, a higher proportion than Germany, Britain, or the United States lost during World War II. Indian casualties were far higher, with perhaps as much as 40% of New England's Indian population killed or forced to flee the region. To fully understand the direct causes of the conflict, here are 5 things you should know before King Philip's War. Number 1, the first Thanksgiving was a good time. In 1620, settlers from England called the Pilgrims landed in present-day Massachusetts to establish the Plymouth colony. They were religious separatists who wanted to completely leave the Church of England, and after first trying Holland, they eventually made their way across the Atlantic and landed in New England. The Pilgrims arrived in the middle of winter and may have died if not for help of the local Native Americans, the Wampanoag. Their leader, Massasoit, along with Squanto, helped show the English how to farm and fish the region, which resulted in a harvest festival after surviving their first year, an event known today as the First Thanksgiving. Number 2, a treaty kept the peace for years. After the first Thanksgiving, William Bradford and Chief Massasoit agreed to a peace treaty between the two groups that lasted for years. The Wampanoag had no idea what to expect from the Pilgrims, and in turn, the Pilgrims knew very little that the about the Native Americans and how they could destroy them at any time. The peace treaty pledged mutual support and allowed the two groups to live side by side without worry of attack from one another. Number 3, here come the Puritans. A separate group arrived in Massachusetts in the 1630s called the Puritans, English settlers who wanted to purify or reform the Anglican Church. Led by John Winthrop and Cotton Mather, over 20,000 English moved to New England in an event called the Great Migration. Puritans believed they were doing God's work, and that their new settlement in America would be a city upon a hill, or ideal society and model Christian community for the rest of the world. Number 4, a huge population shift changes everything. If you know anything about the Aztec and the Spanish conquistadors, you know how destructive smallpox was to the Indians. The same thing happened in New England, with thousands of Native Americans dying from the disease during the same time that the English population in the region was skyrocketing. English towns were popping up all over the place, including the city of Boston, the seat of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. As the English began to spread out, the culture clash intensified between them and the Native Americans. One of the best examples was livestock. The English kept cattle, pigs, and oxen, often not fenced in, and as a result, the animals often ate or trampled Native American crops. Number 5, the Pequot War, a preview of more to come. The biggest event prior to King Philip's War was the Pequot War, which lasted from 1636 to 1638. This was the first real all-out regional conflict between the natives and the English. The most famous moment came at the Mystic Massacre, in which English troops with their Indian allies attacked and burned the Pequot village of Mystic, killing more than 400 men, women, and children. By the end of the war, the English had nearly succeeded in eliminating the entire Pequot population, and both sides had developed a new and long-lasting distrust for one another. King Philip's War will be an event of even bigger conflict than the Pequot War, but its causes are still argued by historians today. What's for certain is this time period set the tone for Native American and English relations for the next 200 years.